Hello, I'm Kate with Kate's Paper Creations, and I welcome you to my weekly current catalog project video and blog, where I feature products from the current Stampin' Up! Catalogs. This one is from products that are found in the annual catalog for 2020 to 2021. And let me show you what I used. For this particular project, I used this Jar of Flowers stamp set, and I combined it with the Forever Fern stamp set. Now basically bundles. Jar of Flowers bundles comes with this stamp set and a punch for the jar. And then the Forever Fern stamp set comes with dies for cutting out the various leaves and ferns that are in that. I also used these greenery embossing folders, and specifically I used the one that has this design on it. I hope you can see that. Okay, so those are the products I used. And the colors I used are Terracotta Tile, Blackberry Bliss, and Pretty Peacock. There's a little touch of Seaside Spray in there as well, and I also used the Memento Black. Then there are two products that I'm going to be using in this project that are actually going to become available in the new mini catalog that goes live January 5th of 2021. And I'm not going to tell you what they are. We're going to build the card, and then if you can figure out what it is that I have used from, by watching the video, figure out what I've used from that new mini catalog, then leave me a comment. Let me know that you figured it out and what they were. Okay, I'm going to start with just a basic A2 greeting card. This particular one I cut 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2 to make a top fold greeting card. Then I took a piece of Blackberry Bliss and I cut this piece, I'm going to have to measure here, 2 1/2 by 4 1/4, so it will go all the way across the front of the card like so. And I'm going to attach that with just regular Stampin' Seal. Just like, I'm going to turn this over, just like this. And then I have a piece of ribbon that I have cut 5 inches long, and I am going to put adhesive. That one doesn't work as well. I'm going to use my Tombow because it works better for this. I'm going to put adhesive on the back of this ribbon all the way across, clear to the ends, like that. And then I am going to be stuck to me. There's one little, what I call a glue booger, trying to get that off there. There we go. And I am going to stick this down and just slightly, very slightly overlap it with the edge of the Blackberry Bliss. Just barely overlapping it there. And then I'm just going to trim off those ends. If I can get it to let go of me so I can throw it away. You can see me over there trying to get the sticky off of my finger. Okay, so that's that part of the card. We'll set that aside. And the next thing I did was I cut a piece of regular Whisper White, and I cut this 4 1/4, I believe, nope, 5 1/4. So it's 3 inches wide, 3 inches wide by 5 1/4 inches tall. And I embossed it with that embossing folder, and you can see it leaves this lovely embossing. And then I used Blackberry Bliss, and I just very lightly, I don't want to mess with my background. Let me put some paper underneath. I just lightly went over the embossed area. I didn't try to keep it just on the high points, but just lightly added some color to that, like that. And then I also attached this to the front of the card with just regular snail. And I probably about 3/8 of an inch from the left edge of the card, and then the top and the bottom you've got 1/8 of an inch because I cut it just 1/4 of an inch short of 5 1/2. So there's that. Now we're going to build the jar, and let me tell you how I did that. You can see here, I don't know if you can see really well, but there's a shine to it here. And let me show you how I did this. The first thing I did was I took the Seaside spray, and the smooth side of the half jar, and stamped the water first. Then I took the Pretty Peacock, let me close this one up, and I stamped the stems, and I just kept them up a ways, not clear down at the bottom, like that. Then I took my marker, Pretty Peacock marker, and I colored in the stems because I wanted them to be solid, and it worked out just fine for what I wanted to do. So let me get that, because this is the trick that I did to get the look I wanted on this jar. So hang in there. I've got a little trick to share, and it will make sense in just a minute, but I got to get this stuff ready to go here first. So let me get that on here. You don't have to be perfect. Okay, so there's the stems. Then I took Tuxedo Black Memento ink and the jar with the embossed side, or the raised side, and I am going to stamp that on here, and I am going to emboss it with clear embossing powder. Now if I had black embossing powder, I would just do it with that, but we don't have black embossing powder available, so this is how I'm going to do it, and it's going to work out just fine, and I'll explain in just a minute why I did it that way, and then I'll show you. And so then I just stamped this, and I just lined up the bottom of the jar like that. You can see through it, so it's pretty easy to do. And there's my jar. Turned out perfect. I'm going to put a band across here, so that part doesn't matter, that the stems aren't clear up there. That's going to be okay. Okay, now I heat embossed this with clear embossing powder, and I'm going to bring in the one that's finished. I heat embossed that black with clear, so I had a shiny, clear edge, and the little marks, the, what do you call it? Marks here that show the shimmer of the glass or whatever. That is also shimmery. But then I wanted this to look even more like a jar. So what I did is I took this shimmery crystal effects, and I'll do it with this piece so you can see. I squeezed it out on here, and I just went down one side with a bead of it down one side, and then I took one of my palette knives and I drew it across the front of the jar, and it gives it that glistening look that you see. I'm going to clean this right away because you don't want to let that dry on your knife. Take my palette knife, and I don't know if you can see it, but it gives it a glistening look, so it looks like it's a real jar, and I really liked that effect. So I'm sharing that with you. But you have to stamp the that background water has to be stamped before you stamp and emboss the black, because once the black's embossed, it's slightly raised, and you won't be able to get that water to press down hard enough. You won't be able to press down hard enough to get the ink in solid. It'll want to leave white spots all around the jar. And I don't have my sample to show you, so I can't show you, but I found out by trial and error that that wouldn't work. So that's why I'm telling you that. You have to stamp that water part first, then the stems, then do the black embossing, then do the shimmer crystal effects, and then it may make it wiggle a little bit. I warp a little bit, but it's not so bad that it won't lay flat once you're ready to put it together. Okay, then I'm going to punch it out now that it's all finished and dry, and it takes a while to dry. So I have set this aside. I pre-made this and set it aside, and I'm going to punch it out. Now, here's the little trick I learned along the way. If you've got a piece that's kind of hard to hold on to and get in here and hold where it needs to be for the punch, just stick a sticky note on the edge, and look at that. I can put it in here and I can get it exactly where I want it to be. And I think that's going to do it right there. Isn't that a slick trick? That's for using those little scraps. Now this is a little bit too much white at the top, so I'm just going to trim it off. And you could, you know, I don't know about you, but sometimes when I punch things out or whatever, I get my punches off for a little bit or something. I'm just going to go in here and I am going to take off this extra wide white edge. Just like that, because I like it better that way. Okay, now that I've got my jar, the next thing I did was get a bunch of Whisper White scraps, and I stamped from this Forever Fern stamp set. I stamped 2 of this image with Pretty Peacock. Then I stamped one of this image with Blackberry Bliss, one with Terracotta Tile, and one with Pretty Peacock. So 2 of these in Pretty Peacock, and 1 each of these in Pretty Peacock, Blackberry Bliss, and Terracotta Tile. So those are the pieces I'm going to be using to build my fern bouquet behind my jar. And to do that, I just put a bunch of adhesive, get this to work for me, on the back, and I just started sticking them to it. And just deciding which way I wanted them to go. And there's not really a right or wrong way to do this. This is totally personal preference, how you build your pieces. I'm going to do that. those are stuck. Then I'm going to have to add a little bit more here so that I can stick these last couple on here. And let's see, I think I want that one over there, and I'm going to put this one right here, like that. So there's my jar. Now I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to put dimensionals on the back, and I'm going to use a lot of dimensionals. I'm going to put some here to help hold those stems in place. Then I'm going to put some on the stems themselves, like that. And then the jar is going to get 4 of them as well. And again, this is however much you think your piece needs to be supported is how much you're going to end up using for dimensionals. You can see what I did, and then you can decide. I'm having a hard time. I broke a fingernail the other day, and I can't get a hold of those little edges. Okay. And then this is going to go on the front of the card. Like so. Just like that. Now I wanted something across here because of the stems not going all the way up, and I decided to take that piece from the jar of flowers. There's a stamp that gives you this really cute little hashtag or whatever you call it, diagonal lines, and I stamped it with Blackberry Bliss, and then I cut it, and it cut it out to length, and so it's about 1 inch long, maybe a little bit too long. I might have to trim it just a little bit. You'll just have to fit it to it, and I'm going to put that on there with just a touch of adhesive across the top. Now there is a stamp in there to add a lid look to the jar, but I didn't want to do that. So that's what I did, and that's the card. Now I haven't put a sentiment on there, but of course you could do that. I just decided not to do that right now. But there is the basic card, and there's plenty of room where you could put a nice sentiment down in this area, or something on the inside of the card. So that is the video for today. I'm glad you stopped by. If you've enjoyed the video, I ask that you share it with your friends and that you subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to build up my subscriber base a little bit. So there's a link in the box below in the description box that will link you to my blog and my online store, and you can shop with me there if you choose. Be sure and comment if you can see what the 2 products from the new mini catalog are that I used today. And thanks again for stopping by.